Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're in for today.
Oh, we've got a jam-packed show. We're going to preview the NBA Finals. We'll talk about another team, another coach denying the Knicks of privilege of interviewing their new vacancy at the head coach position.
Because you can't let anybody leave for New York.
And we'll dive deeper into this NIL, well, what do you call it? Compensation?
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, I'd say, at least for the athletes from back in 2016.
Well, we'll have a former college athlete, LaTroy Dinkins, who played with Long Beach. And he's also a money-wise guy. So why not have a financial expert break this story down with us? He'll join us at 7:30. And then we have two fighters, two Bakersfield natives that are coming up. 559 Fight Night is coming up this Saturday at Eagle Mountain Casino. We'll talk about these fights, their history in the fighting. I know one of them is a vet, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Prime's health. We'll talk a little Billy Belichick. We'll talk all sorts of NFL news and camp notes, a show you won't want to miss. But if you got your predictions of who's going to take Game 3 of the NBA Finals, text it in right now at 661-842-2000. And I've got to show some love to the crew out at I just blanked. New Generation. They did our shirts, and I've worked with them for the last few years. They did our Money Wise shirts, which I'm wearing as we speak.
Incredibly comfortable shirts.
They're a great crew out there. And what do you know? Every time you meet somebody new, you kind of point the lines and okay, well, you know this guy and you know that guy. So it's a big small town, I would say, because every time I meet somebody new, we know somebody that knew somebody. They know our guest, and they're heavy listeners. So a big shout out to New Generation. If you need some shirts done, work shirts, regular shirts, they've got a nice car jersey hanging in the wall when you walk in. But just a big shout out to that crew. They are the real deal, New Generation.
Look, man, I did comfiest shirts I've seen too. The ones that we got in the first round, I wear the two that I have to bed. I'm not going to lie to you.
They are going to be in stock, so we'll start giving those shirts away next week right here on the Early Bird Special. But
absolutely.
Breaking the news this morning, I saw, the Knicks have been in the news lately. They've been wanting to interview Jason Kidd, which kind of seemed okay. Well, that might be a perfect fit. He's a former Knick, and as much as the momentum went, okay, well, I think Kidd's going to sign. Well, they just came out and denied the Knicks this morning.
See, this is what I'm talking about, though. Yesterday, all we're hearing is that the Dallas Mavericks expected Jason Kidd to come back no matter what, whether he decided to go and talk to the Knicks or not. Now you're coming out this morning and saying, no, you can't talk to him.
Yep.
Something tells me there was a good chance Jason said, I'm leaving for New York.
Well, late yesterday, there were reports coming out that Kidd was had interest. And going down the list already, the Knicks have been striking out. They got turned down after firing Thibodeau, Houston's coach, Minnesota's coach. They both denied.
Udoka and Finch. Yeah, you're not losing either of those two.
And then now Dallas. And, of course, former Villanova coach Jay Wright came out and said, no, I have no interest in going into the NBA and coaching this next team.
Not even to coach your old player? Dang. That was a movie being written right there.
The Villanova Knicks, you've been calling
Disney would have jumped on that so quickly. We would have had Glory Road 2, Battle to the NBA Finals. Like, it would have been amazing. But anyways, Not surprising at all that one Ime Udoka one for sure got knocked off that list. If you think Houston's allowing anybody to talk to that man, you are absolutely crazy. Same with Finch. I think that the Timberwolves are very, very happy with what they have. This list is just getting shorter and shorter, and now the name at the top, in my personal opinion, is the guy I've been saying since the beginning,
Malone.
Mike Malone, former Nuggets coach. It just makes sense. Former champion. He's led his team there. Your roster is somewhat built the same as the Denver Nuggets, I guess, maybe without the depth or the youth, I should say, more than depth. I just don't see how this doesn't end up being a match made in heaven at the end of the day. I really don't. I mean, unless you go a different
He
route.
turns him down.
I mean, that's entirely possible as well.
You're going to be our eighth pick.
I mean, yeah, at this point, but I feel like that's more common than we believe.
What about Mike Brown?
I like the thought of Mike Brown. Mike Brown, longtime Sacramento Kings coach, Cavaliers coach when LeBron first came to the league. And it would be interesting because he is a guy that usually can gain the respect of the roster pretty quickly. And he's defensive minded. So it fits a lot of different holes that you would need. I just don't know if he's got the championship pedigree that you would be looking for. Granted, he was part of the Lakers bench when he was an assistant coach and they were in the bubble. But if I am looking for a head coach that is going to be leaning on the whole roster, not just the starting five, and has a championship pedigree, I'm going with the guy who led his team there a couple years ago. And I say led in loose term. Obviously, he had Jokic and Murray and all these other key pieces as well, as he will if he goes to the Knicks, because he'll have Cat and Brunson and Bridges and all the rest of these guys who are no slouches. So I personally believe when you look at the roster, I'd go with the guy who's at least had experience with something like this, which would be Mike Malone.
I know the word that they've used is lenient. They want a lenient type coach. So I'll throw a curveball. What about Luke Walton?
Ooh, Luke Walton would be interesting. And the movement of more players becoming coaches and GMs has really taken over the league. So I see where you're getting at there. But if we're going to go with a different player, like a player coach, I would say instead of Luke Walton, go Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell, yeah.
I think Sam Cassell, you would win a lot of brownie points bringing in Sam Cassell, on top of he has been a integral part to every coaching staff he has been a part of. And I think that it's overdue. It's vastly overdue that this guy gets a job. So if we're going to go with a guy that's a former player turned coach, I'd probably go with Sam Cassell before Luke Walton.
I would too. But I just don't understand why his name hasn't been brought up yet. Because that would have been one of the key ones I looked at in the beginning.
It's weird that his name doesn't get brought up at all, right? Like even the coaching searches last year, Cleveland had him on a short list for a little bit there, but they swiftly scratched him off when Kenny Atkinson and all these guys, Chris Quinn, really started showing out for him. But Sam Cassell has been in that weird limbo spot. He's been an assistant coach in the NBA for God knows how long. Was a solid player when he played in the NBA. He was a starter at one point, never really a superstar or a star, but he at least was a solid contributor for your team and a good defender. But I like you, I don't understand why he continuously just gets overlooked every single year. I mean, we were so quick to give guys jobs that have never had coaching experience ever, JJ Redick. But a guy who's been on a coaching staff for the last decade can't get a job. That's really weird to me. That's very, very odd. I don't know if the league has something against Sam Cassell or if they just don't like the way he coaches. I really don't know. I'd have to talk to a higher up in order to figure that out. But I agree with you. Funny. I don't understand.
It's just funny because the list that first came out when Tibbs got fired, of course, Malone was at the top.
Naturally.
Then Kidd, which you can scratch that off. Finch, scratch that one off.
Anybody who thought Finch was leaving Minnesota for New York, you are so wildly crazy.
And Jay Wright crossed him out. I mean, they're going down the list that we had in the beginning of this.
Naturally.
And it's funny, is the only other ones that we haven't brought up is Taylor Jenkins and Johnny Bryant.
Taylor Jenkins would be interesting, obviously being the Memphis coach who just got let go this year. But again, I see that as a lateral move. I see that if you go with Taylor Jenkins, that would be like your last ditch effort if you can't get anybody else, because he, like Thibodeau, their coaching styles are very much the same. They're hard-headed defensive coaches that lean on the starting five, and your bench players will get minutes, but not a whole ton. So if you're looking to move away from that style of basketball, I don't think Jenkins is the right guy for you. So I don't know
I
if
would
he's going to
like,
even
I
get
mean,
contention.
if we're going off this list, I would take Sam Cassell. I think that
Mhm.
would be probably the a hidden one that not a lot of people are talking about, and I think he would be a better coach
Yeah,
than
and
a lot of these people that we've talked about.
I mean, you look at the vast list of point guards that have turned into coaches, Jason Kidd being one of them we talked about all the time, Ty Lue, Doc Rivers. I mean, like the list goes on, and I think Sam could be the next step in that. I really do. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be a successful coach. There's got to be something behind the scenes.
Where is Ty Lue?
Ty Lue right now, I believe, is in he's in LA still, is he not? Is he not with
Is
the
he?
Clippers?
Oh
No.
yeah, he is.
But regardless, it's just I
I
don't
forgot all about him.
understand the I don't understand I don't want to say disdain. That's not, I don't think that's the right word, but just the lack of interest in the Sam Cassell race. I really don't understand that at all. But again, we're not in the back of all of these, or we're not in these rooms with these front office people, so we don't know what they're thinking. I still say my number one choice for the Knicks is Mike Malone. It should be Mike Malone. It just makes all too much sense to me.
It just makes me laugh because now I remember why I hate the Knicks. I never liked them. And when you line them up against the Pacers, I'm always going to take the Knicks as long as Brunson's there. But it just shows. I think they just jumped it. They jumped it a little bit too early, and
or maybe they did it too late.
Maybe
getting this late in the playoffs kind of shot you in the foot. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Because maybe they saw a lot of these veteran coaches. Maybe they saw how they treated Tibbs, and Tibbs adjusted because there was a lot of backlash against him on the way he coaches. They love the defensive side. They just didn't like the minutes. So he started getting a little lenient to towards the end of their playoff run. And I think they just did Tibbs wrong. And it's funny. I mean, he's still going to get his $30 million sitting on the couch or whatever he's going to end up doing. But I mean, I would have taken Tibbs over all of these guys.
Honestly, outside of Malone,
exactly.
Outside of Malone, I really can't sit there and say anybody on this list of coaches is better than Tom Thibodeau.
I mean, I was kind of intrigued with the Kidd talk because a point guard type coach, a Hall of Famer type point guard that I thought would have uplifted a player like Brunson, let him grow with him.
Somebody that would not take the grief of the New York media as well.
And that's why I think Cassell would be a solid pickup because I think Brunson is a star, but I think he needs to grow a little bit. He needs to know how to rely on his teammates because there was a lot of runs during the playoffs where he would put that team on his back and try so hard to do everything. And that's why you have 4 other teammates on the court. I mean, that's when Cat started opening up, was when he was on the bench. So I think they need an IQ type coach that can grow Brunson into a player that he can be. So I'm just I'm excited to see who's next. I know who I would be happy if everybody just turned that job down. Be like, no.
Honestly, it would be kind of funny to watch. And I do see what you're getting at, and I agree with you that I think the way they handled this Tom Thibodeau situation has a lot of coaches wondering how they'll handle them. But also, when you're a coach sitting there thinking about it, that Tom Thibodeau just walked away with a $30 million check and doesn't have to work next year, that's a pretty good deal too.
Yeah,
so
I would take it.
It's a perennial head scratcher on both sides. I still think that it being Madison Square Garden and it being the Knicks and the mecca of basketball in US, no matter what people say, that is an alluring thing if you're a coach or a player. So I think you're going to get just a handful of people that want to do this. I think going back full circle to what we started this on, I think that's why Dallas told them this morning, you don't get to talk to our coach anymore, because I think there was genuine interest in Jason Kidd wanting out of Dallas after everything that happened with Luka, and now saying, I can go and
get out of the circus.
Exactly. I can get out of the circus, go to New York, which is a circus in itself, but I have a better roster, a better chance to get to the finals, and I can be seen as the coach that finally got the Knicks the chip. Come on.
Yeah,
perfect. It's perfect. So that's exactly why Dallas shut down all of these talks, because Nico Harrison actually had a smart thought in his head, or the owner came down and said, "What are you doing, you idiot?"
Yes, shut this down before it gets any bigger. But we'll take this break. We'll preview the NBA Finals Game 3. Text into the show anytime at 661-842-2000. We are the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Unpopular opinion. This is my favorite Metallica song. I don't know why. Fuel just gets me every single time, especially when they play it live and they pick up the bass as they're playing it. It's so much fun. If you have not seen a Metallica show, you're doing it.
They are very good live.
This is the early bird special. However, I'm Chris Burdick, that is Sparky, and we got game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight, live from Indiana. The line is 5.5 favoring the Thunder. That's a little bit bigger than we expected.
Really?
It's 5.5 sitting right now, so ESPN bets. I don't like that line. I still say you should lean on the Pacers because now take this into account. Pacers haven't lost back-to-back games in 3 months. Usually,
well, this is the Thunder.
I know, and that's why that's the one outlier that I'm sitting here thinking. However, they did the same thing against Cleveland. So it's not like it's impossible for them to keep that streak going. 9-0 after they've lost a game in the last 3 months. So that's a good sign if you're a Pacers fan. The bad sign, in my personal opinion, is that you still have yet to find a single person that can slow down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And if that is so the case, you now need to adopt a new moniker of thinking, which is if we can't stop that man, we got to stop everybody else. So can you stop everybody else is the better question. I don't know. What do you think, Sparky?
I mean, it goes back to, Carlisle is a Hall of Famer type coach. And I think the real question is on how he's going to get Pascal and the rest of the team going. I mean, because when we're waiting for Halliburton until, to get into double digits until the fourth quarter, then they got bigger issues. And I know we've talked about, the defense of OKC keeping them in check, but this is Carlisle talking about how he thinks that he's got to get Halliburton and Pascal going in this game.
We've had a couple of days to study it and work on it. We've made some adjustments that we think can help. Some of this is going to have to be his level of aggression. And some of it is that, we're going to have to set the floor up a little bit better for him. That said, there are so many small factors that contribute to an individual player's ability to get downhill, to get in the lane. And we're talking about Tyrese. We should also talk about Pascal Siakam. I mean, these are our two main guys. So better defense, better rebounding, gets us in transition better, opens up the floor better, and that should help. But, again, we're talking about a team that's very, very difficult to play. There's no element of their defense that's weak at all. And so we're just going to have to really elevate our game and be better.
Which I totally agree, but that's going to be what the key factor is the transition. I mean, when OKC is a way different team than New York. So when they were upbeat and going down the court, New York couldn't handle it. And OKC is a different type of a monster, I would say. I'm still going with OKC in 5, maybe 6. But if it's going to be 6, Pacers got to win tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And again, Pascal Siakam is coming into this game seeing it as the biggest game of the year, which arguably kind of is. Because if you lose back-to-back games to this team, I don't know if you're getting out in 5. Like I don't know if you're making out of game 5, I should say.
Yeah.
Because the momentum being built for the Thunder is way too strong. Right now, the Thunder are 17-2 after games where they lost. 18-2 if you count the cup. But it's hard for me to say that this team is just going to roll over and allow the Pacers to win tonight. I think, and this is just me, I said this on Monday when we were talking about our post game of game 2. Tyrese Halliburton's struggles will make it hard for him to get going regardless because he's got Lou Dort on him
all
24/7.
Blanketed.
So the best way to get him in the game, or at least a part of it, is to keep going with his pass first aggression and get everybody else involved. The easiest way to lax up defense on him is to make sure Lou Dort now has to worry about
someone else.
Turner, Siakam, Naismith, Neinhard, one of those guys scoring over 20, 30 points. Because then the coach is going to sit there and say, okay, I need you to switch onto that guy to slow that guy down.
Which opens up Halliburton.
Exactly. You need to, and I know Rick Carlisle knows this. I know he's probably been scheming for the last 2 days to figure out something to make this work because that's what he did against the Knicks. He beautifully put together an offensive and defensive scheme that actually punished the Knicks for having both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the court at the same time.
Yeah, made him lost.
And that's incredibly difficult to do. So I'm assuming Rick Carlisle will be able to do that here as well. But my point still comes back to your defense of the Pacers, because I agree with you, transition is going to be big, but you're now facing a team that gets out in transition just as good as you do. So how are you as a defense going to step up and stop everybody else? Because you can't stop Shea. You've already proven it in the first 2 games. You cannot stop Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, which is understandable. He's the MVP of the league.
Yeah,
But
and Halliburton came out yesterday. He's talked about the criticism,
yep,
which this is what he had to say about the criticism he's dealt with, pretty much all season.
And I think the big point was coming into the year, we had expectations to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals and have more playoff success. But everybody else's expectations were, oh, they're just going to repeat being the Hawks from a couple of years ago. They got lucky to get to the conference finals, and then they're not going to do very well. I mean, we were 2 weeks into the season, and people were saying, oh, they're not going to make the playoffs. I think there was a lot of those things. And for me, being feeling as if I'm the leader and one of the guys at the forefront, I felt like I was letting our group down. So I think for me the biggest thing was just finding where I could be better, how I could be better, and being honest, having honest conversations with people who I really respect their opinions.
Again, the criticisms of Tyrese Halliburton, I feel, are a little unfair. We're talking about this guy as if he's been a superstar his entire career. He's had to grow into this, and he's taken over the league. I still say that he is superstar status just because he's the face of his team and arguably the best player on it. And I think in today's game, that's really all you need.
We had a listener text in, says Halliburton hits a late shot to win again.
I can see it.
And the other one says Pacers win tonight and Pacers will still win this series.
I
don't see it.
I'm not crazy about them winning the series. I'd love to see it happen, but you need to prove a lot of things in game 3 if that's going to be the case. Because if you come out in game 3 and absolutely mollywop the Thunder and it's not even close, I could sit there and say, okay, you can compete. We can go 7. This is going to be interesting. But if we have a close game at all, you're in trouble, because the Thunder will come out and do to you what they did to you in game 2. And then again in game 4, or I'm sorry, in game 6, most likely, because you're going to have to win again. So I don't know. This is going to be a really interesting series.
It's going to be a big game.
And if we're going to trade back and forth, win, loss, at least we'll get 7 and it'll be entertaining basketball.
Yes. And the last text says, going back to the Knicks, they should get John Calipari from Arkansas. So that would be a perfect fit.
That's an interesting one. I like that. We haven't heard John Calipari rumors in the NBA in quite some time, probably since he was the coach of Kentucky and had John Wall and all the other guys on the team. But I still don't know if I don't think they're going to dip into the college pool. I don't think dipping into the college pool is what you're really looking to do. If this team was looking to rebuild and start something new, absolutely. But that's also why I said no to Hurley. Because 1, Hurley ain't leaving UConn for anybody, especially with the deal he just got. And 2, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for you if you want an NBA championship to go get a college coach with no experience.
Starting over.
Exactly.
Well, we'll take this break. We'll get into the college football or college sports, really, the NIL, the agreement that was taken earlier this week. And we'll have LaTroy Dinkins from MoneyWise and former college football to have his insight, maybe break down this story so I can understand it. Right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I was not expecting the money wise thing.
I hear that every day. Gotta switch it up a little
Hours
bit.
You probably go to bed thinking of that song, don't you?
A ringtone.
Honey? Exactly. Welcome back, Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We got a special guest in house with us. LaTroy Dinkins from the MoneyWise guys is here to help us understand more about this NIL deal between the House and the NCAA. Sir, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for coming. And then
Yeah.
we know you've been listening, so we appreciate that as
Oh,
well.
yeah, absolutely.
So-
Love
Well,
the show.
the House versus NCAA settlement
Break
marks
this down for
a
two
shift.
doofuses, please.
Please do that.
Let's break it down. Let's get into it. So what happened? So a judge by the name of what's her name? Claudia Wilkes. She approved a deal that lets colleges pay their athletes directly, and it starts July 1st, 2025. So old NCAA rules, stop athletes from earning money because they were considered amateurs.
Mhm.
So now I'm guessing now they're considered professionals. But there were some lawsuits that used to go out on players that were pretty unfair. So now they're allowing colleges to directly pay their athletes. And so athletes, also there was another bill that was signed. Athletes from 2016 up to current will get part of this big $2.8 billion over 10 years. So it'll be paid out perpetually over 10 years to those athletes that were eligible. So starting in 2025, schools can pay athletes up to about $20.5 million per year. And this cap, obviously, with inflation and all that, will grow. Athletes already getting scholarships can make money from ads and sponsorships. Obviously that's NIL. So some big changes. Schools can now pay athletes like a salary, not just to rely on outside groups or boosters. Right.
Which we've had groups come in and talk about that. And I mean, so obviously this moving these athletes into more of a professional realm, would contracts be involved, you would think, or especially with this distribution of this money?
Absolutely. That's one thing that they haven't decided if they're going to label these athletes employees. If they're labeled employees, they are W-2 employees essentially, but if they're not, then they're 1099 contractors basically.
Okay.
It's no different from somebody getting a contract and going to a Boeing airport and working there. And so I mean there's some pros and cons to it. These are young athletes, student athletes that are being incentivized, and from a financial advisor's perspective, there's some huge tax education that needs to take place with some of these younger athletes, and some prosperity that could stem from them getting this money. But schools are rushing to set up systems right now to pay athletes. There's some legal questions like whether athletes, like I said, are employees. Those are still unanswered. The NCAA wants Congress to make laws to avoid problems.
Naturally. Yeah.
And so
which usually causes more problems.
Yeah, well, it can, but I mean, who better to draw up the legalization of all of this than the people who handle this for a living? You know what I mean? So I kind of get why you would want the House to at least help you with that.
I mean, while I was looking at it, this opens up the door to obviously athlete compensation, which they need.
Yeah.
They should have had years ago, which I love that they're former players that are going to get their money finally. But it also focuses on, the athletic departments to make tough financial decisions, because some schools may be cutting staff now, and I mean,
they got to focus on a deeper P&L now.
Exactly.
So, that's the other thing I was going to bring up too. So the 20.5 is a cap that they could potentially be paying these athletes over the 10-year period.
No, that's the 2.8 billion. The 20.5 million. This is a per year cap for the athletes, for the current,
for the
athletes.
ones that are going right now.
Yeah.
So athletes could be paid up to 20.5 million to come play for that school.
Yeah. So they get it's basically like a bucket of money that they can, to their discretion. And it's to their discretion. And that, brought a question to me. I was like, okay, because when you talk about employee and employer, there's non-discriminatory clauses. If an employer, for instance, if an employer is going to put money in a tax sheltered vehicle that they could defer money into, they got to do it for the rest of the employee, right? They got to at least offer it. And so that's a big implication there. If they are considered employees, then that's going to have to be something, and then
does that carry over to the actual teachers and people in the front offices as well? Because if their kid is getting offered a whole bunch of benefits, technically wouldn't Professor, Brown over in the theology majors have something to do with that too?
Yeah, maybe.
So
I mean, what is really how is this going to affect the portal,
I actually,
or will it at all?
Yeah, at that point.
Well, I think that the portal, if schools are willing to, like these smaller schools are willing to pay a top athlete on their team, they don't need to they won't have to transfer, because people are transferring because the NIL offers.
Yeah,
but
that's what's really I've been aggravated too, because so and so might be, I mean, I love the story if a guy is killing it in a small school and gets an offer to go to a bigger school. Obviously,
Ben Roethlisberger,
that's
Miami of Ohio.
That's exactly what we want out of that portal window. But when a guy is making this and at a big school, and I got a better offer over here, and I could go play with Belichick for whatever and get 2 something million. I mean, we talked about the what was it, the quarterback a couple months ago,
Nico Iamaleava,
that was jumping around. And I mean,
you said his name pretty good.
we practiced.
I'm gonna leave you is the best way I like to say it.
Nico, I'm gonna leave you. But no, I just wondered if, I mean, hopefully it's a positive impact, because I don't mind the portal when it's helping a player move to a bigger promotion for himself,
right?
But when he's jumping around each year, I mean, they've got to put some type of line in there where whether they have to. I don't like the sitting out a year type thing, because now you're just taking a year from his small window.
The punishment of that was always dumb, but that's kind of what I wanted to ask as well, because obviously switching this up between being an actual employee or a 1099, wouldn't that factor into it as well? Because if you're a 1099 and you're an independent contractor, that would leave the door open for these players to go and say, well, I can leave whenever the heck I want.
Absolutely.
But if you're a contracted employee and there's actual contracts involved in this, obviously that would make it different, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like one of the biggest things, with talking about this non-discriminatory element here, I kind of feel like what's going to end up happening is, if they're paying one player heavily and they're not paying other athletes that are actually producing too and start on the field, there might be some sort of guardrails to the system. It's going to happen. It's inevitable when they roll out new initiatives. These things tend to happen. I'm actually happy about this bill, because you got these other athletes that don't really get that much attention. You got softball players, you got volleyball players. Their parents invest all this time in their high school sports, take them to so many different camps. They invest all this money into their student athlete, and there's no professional there's no professional like volleyball or softball players that could be incentivized like NFL or these college athletes now. So it gives them an opportunity. I like it because it gives them an opportunity to actually get a piece of that pie. That $20.5 million just can't be shunned just to, football, because they got the biggest crowds, or basketball,
right?
Because, they got the biggest crowds. So now, it's to the school's discretion. They don't have to pay every athlete on the roster, only the ones that they feel is bringing value to the program.
Okay. So but how do you really divvy that up? Because I know they didn't this is a weird comparison, because I know they didn't play at the same time, but take Joe Burrow and Paul Skeens. Okay. Two major players that played for LSU.
How do
you develop exactly how much Joe Burrow made for LSU compared to Paul Skeens made for LSU? You know what I mean? That's kind of hard to justify, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That's something I'm sure that's something that's in discussions of how to. That's why they're saying right now that these colleges are trying to build a system that pays athletes. How are we going to allocate this money? What sort of metrics do we have to quantify in order to pay this athlete this? So it's a very it's going to take a lot to kind of build this thing out.
A major step forward.
It's a major step forward.
Yeah, and that's what we want. Obviously, I mean, 10 years ago, these guys were selling whatever they could just to get a burger. So I'm glad that it's a positive step, but I mean, there's still probably a lot of things they have to work out, and I mean, it's just like the playoff seedings. They're still working on that, and it's
well, they want to
every other year.
expand the March Madness tournament now. They're talking
course.
about
They're
making
trying to
it
do that.
bigger.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's already big enough, but okay, sure. But I got one devil's advocate question here, though, because we're talking about the business side of this, but we haven't really talked about how this is going to affect the athletes themselves. You are a former collegiate athlete.
Yeah.
So I want you to put yourself in this situation. You're a kid playing right now, getting a potential big NIL deal.
Okay.
How much pressure do you think is going on these kids, and how do you think that's going to affect them in the long run, making them a professional, arguably, before people think they should be?
Man, it's kind of hard for me to go back because, hindsight is 50/20. And
True.
right now, what I know now, I would take all the advice I possibly can as a student athlete, going into an NIL deal, because there are some big implications, to receiving that money especially as a 1099 contractor. There's tax implications. You need to be educated on, some of the investment deferral, solo 401ks, things of that nature. And then too, you got some of these student athletes that don't really have a feel for reality because they coming out of high school, going straight to college. They never really worked a job from 9 to 5, right? They don't know
what a real life
real life job. They don't even know what a real salary is. If let me reverse this question. I got like 3 boys, if it's my oldest son, I would educate him. I would set a benchmark for him. I'm like, look, doctors and lawyers and attorneys, this is what they make on a salary. So if you make something, bigger than this, just know, this is very abnormal and this is not going to last forever. So, I think there's a lot of, guard railing and education that needs to take place. But me being a former athlete, I really feel, it all depends on your background, where you come from. Some people feel the obligation to pay family. Family got me to this point in life. I need to, pay the family before paying taxes.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people are worried about, though, too, is that
it's going to be a mess.
The immaturity that comes with it, obviously being 18, 19 years old, getting paid, well, probably in the millions. If you're good enough to be paid in the millions, obviously you're going to want to pay people back or like give back and all that type of stuff. So it's like, how do you, obviously having a good father figure or somebody to move you in that direction is a good thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I worry about a little bit, is that if we start giving these kids, let's say a quarterback comes in and gets paid $10 million out of this 20.5, which is a ridiculous number, but say he does, and he thinks he is God's gift to this earth, the golden arm from BMS, if you watch Blue Mountain State.
Yeah.
And then he goes and gets hurt.
Yeah.
And like you said, now it's all gone. So how do you how do you kind of prepare an athlete for that? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be shocked right now if there aren't an army of advisors trying to find their way into these colleges to start doing education for some of these athletes.
I think it's necessary.
It's very necessary.
100%.
Really, it's necessary in high school.
Yeah.
You need to teach these kids in high school
because the state of Georgia, I don't know if you guys know this, but they are allowing their high school athletes to receive NIL offers in high school. Yeah, so I've
heard that.
So that's what's going on currently right now.
Well, we just talked the other day. Was it a sophomore going into a junior year that's got a long list of college offers, and he's like,
long list of college offers.
I also want to kind of shed some light too, like some positivity. Like nowadays, you got athletes that don't really get that stardom coming out of high school, right? I follow football from all levels, from D1 all the way to D2. That's as far as I go. There's a lot of D2 athletes that are being recruited now from D1s and being offered that NIL because of their production that they received at the D2 level. I really like that because it gives people the opportunity now to cultivate their talent, because some people develop slowly than others. You'll have D2 athletes coming out of softball, D2 athletes coming out of basketball that are now stepping up into D1, actually getting that, because really it's politics when it all boils down to who showed up to my camp, who did I assess, I'm gonna give this player a 5-star. But there's other talent that might have not had that exposure and they didn't really get the looks and they have to settle for a D2.
Right.
I love the transfer portal in the aspect that those smaller D2 players are able to step up now and show out. on the D1 level.
Oh, absolutely.
I
And I
love it.
mean, you're
Yeah.
getting more light, or you're getting more light on a lot of those players,
Yeah.
especially like the Cameron Wentzes who've gone and even gotten drafted from D2.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, because maybe these guys go to a D2 college or even a JUCO.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
all of these questions that they had when they were being recruited now go away because they had a year of college ball and they're like, oh, wait, okay, maybe he is mature enough to play for us. And then you get to pull them in. So I agree with you. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. This is this guy named Terrell Davis who played for Central Oklahoma. He was a Triple Crown winner in all categories, reception, yards, and touchdowns for Central Oklahoma, which is a D2 program. He got recruited to Oklahoma State, and he's on the starting lineup.
I remember watching my boy Rashard Matthews playing over at Bakersfield College. Went up, got an offer over at Nevada, played at Nevada, and then he ended up getting drafted or undrafted. Ended up going up. He made some solid pickups and played for my Dolphins for a little while. But
no, as a man, I'm telling you, this is like, you know, as a parent, like this, you know,
opportunity.
This is opportunity for our kids. You know, the ones my son who played for BCHS, plays on the baseball team, to, you know, have an extra chance if he doesn't get that popular D1 scholarship or whatnot. You know, just he gets to have a second chance.
Absolutely.
And then schools are able to pay now.
More exposure is better. And honestly, there's always going to be a handful of diamonds that don't go noticed.
Yeah.
Especially when you play for, you know, country bumpkin towns and then have to go to a JUCO right afterwards. So, and this is across the board. It's not just football. I mean, you get it in baseball a lot too. So I agree with you. It's going to make it better. And deals like this are just a great way to go about it. So thanks for coming in, my friend, and helping us understand this. You know, we are, obviously he works with you guys, but I am terrible with money. So I needed somebody to come in and explain this to me. But we appreciate it, my brother. And we will have you on again very soon. We got to take a break, though, and pay some bills. You've been listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Yeah, that return down. I think it's like 30 seconds long.
22 seconds.
Welcome back to the early bird special. I'm Chris Burton.
We only got a couple minutes because we got Sal and Julio from 559 fights coming in here shortly at the top of the hour. But I wanted to bounce off this Belichick talk. Now that he's actually doing his job, you don't have to hear about his wife or
I mean,
girlfriend or fiance.
so weird. The fact that the fiance is younger than your kids.
Hey.
But hey, dude, it is. It's
Do-
weird.
do
I'm
you?
sorry. I'm just throwing it out there. It's an odd thing to have happen. I do commemorate him though for at least attacking it the way we all knew he would. He's used to this type of talk, so he pretty much said that exactly. He said, "I don't care. You guys say this stuff about me all the time, so why do I have to worry about it now?" I just it doesn't surprise me at all. I expected him to come into this, but if they come out this year and they are flat or they are unsuccessful in any way, shape, or form, oh good lord, is Bill Belichick going to get ripped apart? And it's just because he's got this entire aura about him that he is the greatest coach of all time. So no matter what distractions are in his way, he should be able to get through them. And if they come out and look ugly this year, it's going to be a very, very ugly time for him.
Well, this was Belichick talking about the biggest misconception.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm really focused on, doing my job here at Carolina, which is to help our football team. And that's, just to get better every day, to stack those days together, training days, preparation days, days out on the field. And we've done that. And, our staff's, again, done a great job of working hard to do that. So, that's my big focus. I mean, is there noise out there? We've always dealt with that. Really, our job is to build the football team and for the team to, help build the team and also build their individual careers.
Honestly, look, there's nothing to say that he hasn't been doing that. I scratch my head though if you're going to believe that that's all you've done, because all we've heard of is your book tour and your media credentials and all this other stuff, bud. So we haven't heard a lot of football coming from
I
your
hope
corner.
he falls right on his face.
Again, I have no hate for Bill Belichick, but I get why others do. It comes off as a very arrogant man at times, but so does Aaron Rodgers. So we'll get to him in a second. The guy had a surprise marriage that nobody knew about. That and apparently,
what's his name?
Yeah, well, and the media is all around this too. That was the top story of the day for some reason. But this is the early bird special. We'll be right back with 559. We got a couple fighters in the house right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special Hour 2. I'm Burdick, that's Sparky, and we have another special guest in the building with us, another 5'9" fighter, a 3-3 record as a pro, Salvatore Bruno. What's going on, brother?
Not much. Just woke up about an hour ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what we get a lot of the time here.
Yeah.
Trust me, we understand.
Wake up.
It's well, and as I was telling him off break, these guys are training a lot, but you actually got a short notice fight coming up, though.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that in a second. But you're a 2-time 5'9" featherweight champion. You won via TKO in the 3rd round in May. So talk about that fight a little bit and how you how preparing for all of that was.
That fight was went pretty much as good as it can go. I had a perfect 6 week fight camp and preparation for that. The only downfall of that one was I did miss weight on that. So
Did you really?
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a better diet plan or something for those weight cuts down to 135.
How much were you down more?
I was over like 4-point-something pounds.
Oh, okay. So it was
Yeah.
a pretty considerable.
It's pretty
amount,
good.
man.
Yeah, it was a pretty good miss. That was the first time I ever missed weight. So the coach, he was hesitant on taking the fight. The other my opponent's coach, he said, this guy needs to not surpass 154 when he rehydrates, or else we're not taking the fight. So I pretty much rehydrated up to like 154 in a couple hours, and then had to kind of hold my weight and check it every couple of minutes, and then be like, all right, I could have some more water. And so that was tough.
So for people who don't know what type of fighting you do, how would you explain it? Are you more of a striker? Are you more of a ground and pound kind of a guy? Like, how do you usually go about it?
I would say I'm definitely more of a striker, especially in my pro career so far. I've all the way up till this fight. I mean, I really haven't thrown in a lot of takedowns until that one. And so I told myself, why do I keep striking with everybody? I need to mix this. This is mixed martial arts. So
Right.
I put that in the back of my head going into the fight, and I shot some double legs and all of them landed. So I was like, no, I need
You got something going here.
Yeah, I need to do this more often. So yeah, I'm more of a striker. But
so being a striker, obviously weight matters, because more weight behind your punches, obviously more power.
Yeah.
So do you prefer fighting up at up at the bantamweight or down at the featherweight more?
I honestly, I like fighting at featherweight because it's so much easier to make weight. I feel a lot better during camp.
It's a little more natural for you.
Yeah, I'm not so depleted and stuff, because I naturally walk around healthy at about 160.
Oh, okay.
And so getting down to 135 is like, it's grueling. It's like I'm on death's door almost. So
so talk about that a little bit, though, because I don't think people who just casually watch really understand what you guys as fighters have to go through to make weight.
Yeah, it's such a crazy process. Like, it almost seems impossible, but when you're really cutting that weight, so like, not only are you dieting and eating like very limited amount, you're burning tons of calories every day, and then your body's obviously not able to recover as well when you're not eating enough. So on top of that, at the end of the the last week, I would say, of a fight camp, you're doing what's called a water load. So you're just, it's like bodybuilders use this method too, that you drink a ton of water, you kind of cut out salt, cut out all your carbs, and that way by the end of it, your body kind of just pushes everything, all the rest of your water out. Like, if you drink an over excess of water and you're not putting enough salt in your body, you're actually dehydrating yourself more. So by the end of that, that's when you get to that last day before weigh-ins, and then you cut, the day of weigh-ins, you cut the rest of that water in the sauna, and by
just
that,
kind of wash it out of your body.
Yeah, by that time, I mean, you're just dying. So yeah, literally.
Well, and then obviously you guys rehydrate to get into the fight, but usually this is a process that takes, like you said, about 6 to 7 weeks. You coming into this fight here this weekend only had 11 days to get ready for this, right?
Yeah, I had 11 days notice. So when I checked, because I didn't check my weight that week when I took the fight. So I had checked it the week previous, and I was like 168. And they wanted to fight at 150. So I was like, cool, I could do that. Let me see what my weight's at. So I checked my weight, and I was about 160 pounds. So I was like, all right, 10 pounds, that's like cake work for me.
Okay.
So yeah, I was
It's not something that you were kind of that worried about then, was making weight.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, but talk about preparing for a fight in general, though, in under 11 days, because obviously you have to do your homework on who you're fighting, how they fight, and all that in order for you to actually get the win, right?
Yeah. So the guy that I'm fighting, I mean, I've had my eye on him for, a
This is
couple
Tyler
years.
Miller.
Like I was telling you before we started.
Yeah.
So I kind of know his style. I know how he fights and what I'm, prepared for and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wasn't really too concerned on like, I need to work on this. I need to work on this. I knew on 11 days notice, like, all right, I'm ready for this guy.
Mhm.
I was already training and everything back in the gym. So
how do you approach this, though? Just knowing that, you were just kind of casually training and now you're like, okay, I got a fight coming up in 10 days. Do you look at this more of like, okay, this is a building block fight for me. This is kind of something I could test my craft and figure out what's working for me. Or is this more of like, are you taking it just as seriously as you would something that you trained 7-8 weeks for?
yeah, I'm definitely taking it just as serious because obviously as a professional, I mean, those blemishes on your record don't go away as
Mhm.
as if you're an amateur. You can have a ton of amateur fights and you could take some losses and stuff, and then when you turn pro, you're 0-0 again.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's really for the experience as an amateur, but as a professional, those marks matter when
Mhm.
you have those losses. So I've had 6 pro fights, and all of my opponents have been all game opponents, and so like when you compare records with somebody else, you kind of look at this guy's record. He might have a great record, and then you look at the guys he beat, and it's like, well, none of these guys really even have a win yet.
Mhm.
So sometimes
It just matters who they're going up against.
yeah,
rather than
exactly.
their record
Yeah, a lot
itself.
of those guys are getting padded records because they have a management company, and they're like, we're going to give you this guy. They're building you up. You know what I mean? So that way
Yeah.
you look great. It's just like boxing almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes them look much bigger than they actually are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
and I really did want to test myself on a short notice fight because when you got to be ready
Mhm.
at all times, really, in this sport.
Is this your first short notice fight? Not to cut you off, I apologize.
No, yeah, this is the first short notice fight on that short of notice. I've taken fights on maybe a couple weeks notice, but like on this short, yeah, that's a first for me. I mean, under 2 weeks is very short notice. So
Okay. And then obviously with this being somebody you had your eye on, that's probably the main reason you wanted to take this, right?
yeah, I like the opponent. I wasn't gonna go like, okay, here's a guy who's 10-0.
Yeah.
11 days notice. I was like, let me make sure that this is obviously a winnable fight.
You're not getting set up to be a punching bag here for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna fight a guy, and not saying I wouldn't fight a guy who's got a great record.
No.
But I would want that actual couple, 7-8 weeks preparation for that.
Right.
So this was an opportunity where I said, I think I'm good. I'm good to go. Plus, I just came off of a fight camp. Like I said, I fought May 10th, and I was already pretty much in shape. I only took about a week off to kind of let the little dings and stuff heal up. And yeah, I'm still a little bruised up from the last fight.
Right.
So
and that's got to factor in a little bit too, right? You haven't really gotten the full healing process done yet.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, but I'm good enough, to go into the fight healthy. So
Naturally.
Yeah.
Now, self-indulgent question. This is going to be a dumb one, but hopefully this will make you laugh, right? You guys obviously get walkout songs. Please tell me your walkout song is "We Don't Talk About Bruno."
No.
Dang it.
My uncle.
Dang.
Yeah, my uncle keeps telling me to do that one. I mean, I might have to do it one day.
Dude, I'm telling you, you would probably kill it. At least get people's attention if you switch to that. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, you know what? Next fight, I'll do it.
Attaboy. See, I gotta. That's what I like to hear. A little bit in there. I like that.
No, so we're talking to Sal Bruno. 559 Fights 115 is going down this Saturday, June 14th, at the Eagle Mountain Casino out in Porterville. And you can get your tickets. Just go to 559fights.com. Now, I saw while I was prepping for the interview, your nickname is the Bull.
Yes, sir.
Where did that come from?
A couple different reasons. My coach's nickname was the Bull as well, and so it kind of really just fit in with my style of fighting, and then also it kind of just flows well with my name. You know what I mean? Salvatore the Bull Bruno. It kind of goes nicely with it. So I'm also Italian, so the Bull. I just like the way it sounded. And my coach, he told me as an amateur, he's like, "Look, you're gonna have to earn this nickname.
I was just about to ask
He
that.
said,
What did he
you're
make you
taking
go
my
through?
nickname, so like you're gonna earn it. So he told me, he's like, you got to win the title, 559 fights, and you got to defend the title once, and then you're the bull after that.
Which you've done twice.
Yeah,
obviously.
so I did that. I won the belt. I knocked the guy out in 16 seconds, and then they gave me a guy who was undefeated, Division I wrestler out of Cal Poly, and I beat the brakes off of that guy for 3 rounds. So he hasn't fought since. So
I mean, sometimes that doesn't transition over well. So
Yeah.
when you get rocked like that, it's hard to bounce back. So
yeah, I don't think he had fought a guy like me yet.
No.
And when he did experience that, I mean, I don't know.
Well, when you take the bull, you get the horns, right?
Yeah,
Well,
sometimes
that's
yeah.
what they say. I know you said you've kept an eye out on your next opponent, which is Tyler Miller. What do you know about this guy? What kind of fighter is he?
This guy, I mean, I know I'm not underestimating him at all. I know he's very athletic, very strong guy. He was cutting a lot of weight to get down to 135 as well. And actually, Isaac, that was supposed to be here.
He's sleeping.
He fought him as an amateur quite a few years ago, and they had a great fight. I thought Isaac won that fight, and he ended up losing to a split decision to Tyler Miller. And so I also have another teammate that faced him in a jiu-jitsu tournament and beat him. And so, like I said before, I was supposed to fight this guy for my pro debut, and he turned it down. That was in 2022.
Oh,
And so, this has kind of had a lot of
Now gives you a reason.
build up for
There's a little animosity behind that right now, or
no animosity. Like we have respect for each other.
okay.
I don't do a lot of the trash talking and disrespectful stuff for my fights. It's just not in my character. I don't want to be fake about it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I'm just authentic.
like a good Italian.
Yeah. I try to be.
All the talking happens at the dinner table when you're
Exactly.
Italian.
Yeah. Well, I'll let the fight do the talking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. Thank you so much for your time, Sal. We appreciate it so much. 559 going on this weekend. Go check it out. Tickets are still available. Are you the main event, or are you just in the mid card?
Yeah, I'm like mid card. I'm like the 4th professional fight on the card.
Nice.
There'll be a couple ones after that.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, beautiful. Go get him. We'll talk to you after the fight. And if you're out of town or you can't make it, they still do streaming. So just go to 559fights.com. We'll talk about this and much more right after the break. Thank you.
Appreciate your time,
it.
brother.
Right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101. Yeah, I can get behind this one. LL,
I'm gonna play all LL next week.
go for it. I won't know most of them, I promise you.
I bet you do actually.
Actually, you're probably right. I probably do. I probably know way more than I know.
He is one of those that,
You really don't realize you know most of his songs
yeah.
until you hear them. Yeah, there's
Well,
a lot of bands that are like that,
a
actually.
big shout out to Latroy Dinkins over at Moneywise, as well as Sal the Bull Bruno will be fighting this Saturday night at Eagle Mountain Casino for 559 Fight 115.
Hopefully, we'll talk to Julio Isaac Arabe at some point. I believe he probably.
Sal was telling me that after he's like, he's sleeping a lot, so I wouldn't doubt if
That's
he
what he was like. He
knocked out
probably
his
slept through his
knocked
alarm.
out
I'm
his
like,
alarm.
yeah, I know a lot of people who do that. So
I set up like 5 alarms just in case I don't, but
I can't. I like all my friends have told me that you'll sleep through your alarm eventually. I've never once slept through my alarm.
well,
It's the
my
weirdest thing.
thing is the years of waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning for
Yeah.
the morning news.
You kind of get used to that.
I set an alarm about 3 hours before my alarm, so I was like, I get okay, I don't have to wake up, snooze, and it makes it easier for my old ass to wake up later.
You know, I do that naturally. My body will wake me up about an hour or two before my alarm. I'll go to the bathroom and I realize, oh, I still have an hour. I can go back to sleep. And then I sleep for that hour. It's fantastic.
Well, we had a text yesterday that was saying when we were talking about, Ohtani a couple weeks ago about you're saying that he should be even a closer.
I'm just saying, if you have the best pitcher in baseball and you have a massive gap in your rotation, where do you put him? Just come on.
Well, the Dodgers manager, Dave Roberts, isn't completely shutting the door on Ohtani returning to the mound before the All-Star break now, saying the chances are north of 0.
Mhm.
But with all the injuries they've been dealing with, I think you're probably right. But a lot of Dodger fans are holding their breath. We're like,
A lot of them don't want him to pitch at all.
exactly.
And I get why. And honestly, a lot of baseball fans don't want him to pitch at all because you run the risk of him hurting himself again. If he feels like he can go, let him go. Like, these guys are athletes. They know what their body feels like. And granted, yes, he had an injury last year. Pump the brakes. Everybody's got their injury history. There's probably not a single athlete on the planet who hasn't been hurt before in their career. So we shouldn't freak out when he has one injury. Now, if it happens again, yes, pull him. Don't allow him to pitch ever again. Not because he can't, but because obviously he's way too good of a hitter and he's way too valuable to your team to be just playing with fire.
Yeah, of course. You want him to be healthy for, the remaining 8 years of his contract.
This is also why I say he should be your closer, because you maybe get 1 inning out of him a day, if that. Why not? I'm just saying. I don't know. Dodger fans, you still have yet to tell me if I'm wrong or if this is a bad choice or not, because I don't believe it is. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I don't think it's a bad move. I would put him there if I was Dave Roberts. That's just me. But
I mean, that's a lot of money invested, so why not?
That's what I'm saying. Use him somewhere as a pitcher.
And what happens if he comes out throwing fire? Then you're all look like geniuses.
It's true. But if he comes out and it's opposite, obviously, yeah, you're going to probably get fired for that. But Dave Roberts, you have been dancing on that line since you've been the Dodgers manager. So what is the difference now, right?
And before we get away and go back into some football, I do have to throw out Dion was not at camp or not at practice. He's dealing with some undisclosed illness. I'm not sure what it is. They're not reporting that, but
I pray it's not complications from his diabetes again.
What we talked about it off the air. It seems like this guy is not taking care of himself. And he's had a history. I think he lost a toe or two. He's got some stuff amputated, and it's just his health has been concerning.
That's what kind of is bothersome to me, though, is that, and again, I am not a doctor, nor do I know anything about being one, but people who have diabetes and are warned that they have diabetes, you have to change your entire lifestyle and your eating habits. I know plenty of people who have diabetes and have been diagnosed with it. And usually when you don't do that is when things start going wrong, when you need to start getting stuff amputated, when stuff's not really working correctly. And that's what makes me worry. It's like something tells me Dion, knowing his personality, you would assume would be someone who takes care of himself. But the opposite could be true as well. We could be sitting here thinking he is, working out 5 hours a day and being prime. What if he's not? What if he's just walking around saying, I don't need to work out because I'm prime, or I don't need to watch what I eat because I'm prime. My body will do it for me, or that kind of a thing. We don't know exactly how he is. So that's what makes me worry. If again, God forbid, it is complications from his diabetes. We don't know what the illness is. It could just be a common cold, and the media is just blowing this out of proportion.
Well, that's what they do.
But
And another coach that's dealing with some health issues was Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh. Came out yesterday, said he had 2 significant medical procedures this offseason. And he says he feels 100%, but the doctors are going to keep him limited during OTAs and mandatory minicamp to make sure he doesn't push it too hard before the season starts.
does it say what the procedures were, or does it just say that they're very?
It says a cardiac operation and a hip replacement, which is
the hip
2 different big ones.
But one very serious, the other not so much.
I mean, he's had history of some health issues, so
he needed a hip replacement, and he was demonstrating the proper way to tackle at the meetings last year. He was showing Pat McAfee like these. How does he need a hip replacement? Harbaugh, what is happening? The cardiac one, though, concerns me. That I hope and pray that's not serious, because you never want to hear something like that. But at least it's not something that can't be managed.
Well, he had some what was it? It was a major surgery he had in 2012 that they thought that was going to take his whole career over, and he had a medical operation in 2012. But just glad he's healthy and good to go. We'll take this quick break because we've got a lot of NFL talk, some more drama out of Cincy, as there another player that hasn't been signed that we've kind of looked over, and Aaron Rodgers, of course, plus some other NFL news, some out of Cleveland, Shador, and much, much more right here on the ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
We got a text over the break says, show, I will not be the closer verdict.
Look, man, you can fight it all you want. All you want. It makes all the sense in the world. I'm just saying.
Well, that's probably why it won't work.
I know. It's Dodgers, and you guys just if it's too simple, it can't be.
There's a big Phillies hat on.
I don't care.
Oh,
I'll wear black and red or white or whatever colors I need to. It is never blue. I'll tell you that right now in my world. Never blue. So we gotta switch over to the NFL because there's way too much. And we should probably start with the Cincinnati Bengals since we talked about this yesterday with the dropping of the linebacker and freeing up a $6 million. And we collectively at least thought, me and Sparky, that this could potentially be a move to get Trey Hendrickson his money. Until the story came out yesterday that I completely forgot about. That was not for Trey.
no.
They're trying to free up money to pay their number 1 draft pick, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, who came out yesterday thrashing the front office of the Cincinnati Bengals, calling them unprofessional and wanting to win arguments more than win football games.
Yeah, that is.
Oh,
He said, if I was the
Lord.
GM or owner, I would take all my money and pay Trey.
So basically, what I'm hearing coming out of Cincinnati is if you are not Joe Burrow or one of his homies, they don't want you. They don't want anything to do with you, and you're not going to get paid.
I heard Burrow on NFL Live last night, and he was talking about, well, I don't really control what Trey gets, and I want him on the
what
team.
T got.
But it was funny is because when it came to your receivers, you were all over that.
Absolutely, but you can't control what Trey gets. Look, man, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to learn real quick that you cannot win an NFL championship without a defense. I'm sorry, and I have never seen an all-rookie defense win a championship either. So I don't know what your game plan is or who
It's like they
sold
still
you this,
live on beating the Chiefs that one year,
right?
And that's all I ever hear about. But this is a Shamar Stewart yesterday.
We all agree Trey will be right? But technically, he's still 1% wrong for being under contract. So, in my case, I'm 100% right. So it should be a no-brainer. And in Trey's case, I think it should be a no-brainer too. I mean, he led 17.5 sacks for 2 years back-to-back. If I was the GM or I was the owner, take all my money. But I guess they don't operate like that.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. Shamar said it. I don't need to say it. I don't understand why you don't pay the man. I don't understand why you paid T. Higgins all this money, but not him. Like, I get why you paid Jamar Chase. 110% get that. He's probably the most electric wide receiver in the league, if not one of the top 5. But Trey Hendrickson is the number 1 sack guy in the NFL and has been for 2 years for your team. And you can't say that hasn't benefited you. T. Higgins has been hurt a lot, but you're okay with paying him. That's why that's why all of the internet jokes about Cincinnati Bengals not giving a rat's arse about their defense or anything outside of a quarterback and wide receivers. It's funny because it's true. And I don't know about you, Spark, but I don't think I've ever seen a team win a championship that way.
No.
Ever.
I mean, the saying is what? Defenses win championships.
Yes. And defense is what's going to get you there.
Not wide receiver twos.
And if you can't even pay your number 1 draft pick of this year, Shamar Stewart or Trey Hendrickson, your number 1 defensive end, you're hoping they just take handshake deals, most likely. I find that to be a little insulting. And if I'm a defensive player in this league, that puts a massive red flag above the Cincinnati Bengals. So not only are you not paying your guys, but you're deterring other potential guys from wanting to come play for you at all. And this is coming from a team that really thrived on a really good defense just about a decade ago when they had Ray Maluga and all these other incredible defensive players. And
I think
now
that was the better
Geno
team they had.
Atkins, like now it's all offense or nothing.
Yep.
It's kind of like what we're seeing out of the Dallas Mavericks right now, just opposite. All you want is defense in the Dallas Mavericks. Now all they want is offense in Cincinnati. It's a head scratcher, but like they said in dodgeball, let's see if it works out for them, Cotton.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. But The Denver Broncos added more depth to the running back room and signing J.K. Dobbins to a 1-year deal, $5.25 million, which is double of what Nick Chubb got the day before. But he has incentives that he can make just about a little under 5.2 million. But I mean, J.K. Dobbins, I bring it up because one, Denver's got a ton of running backs already. They drafted a couple, and just looking at the style and the running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb, I mean, I would have easily taken Chubb over J.K. Dobbins, but that's just me.
Well, I feel like this is a reactionary signing. I feel like they probably were in the hunt for a Nick Chubb, but because they lost out on Nick Chubb, they went with.
Well, no, that's why I brought it up, is because Chubb was talking yesterday and said that he only got one call. I don't know if it was his agency, but he said Houston is the one that hit me up, and he's the one that stayed with us. So I was like, I was surprised that I didn't get more looks this offseason. And I was just kind of shocked that there's running backs like this, that J.K. Dobbins, that have had injury concerns. I mean, back-to-back years, he's been out. I mean, last year he went out in week 1, week 2.
Well, that's the only thing that I can think of that would deter them from calling you.
And obviously, it's a major injury.
Yeah, they've been major injuries. That's because honestly, I'm not gonna lie. When we saw that workout video of Nick Chubb doing the 400-pound squat, jumping out of the gym, I was shocked. I did not believe he still had that in him because of the amount of injuries that he's had to deal with in the last couple of years. So that the video probably caught the eye of the Houston Texans and said, hey, maybe he can still go again.
Take a flyer.
But if I'm the Denver Broncos, you can't also take out here that J.K. Dobbins had a career year last year with the Chargers and absolutely just is going into a running back room in Denver that had a lot of questions. I mean, Sean Payton swiftly moved out Javonte.
Well, he played one game last year and 13 the year before that.
Oh, it was the year before that he had a year. Okay, that's
what I'm thinking. The Chargers.
I apologize. You're right. So the year before that is the year that he had a break.
But it's another Achilles injury. I mean, that's more concerning to me. Just as a GM, is like, man, his Achilles has had multiple Achilles injuries.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's again same thing with Nick Chubb though. When you're sitting there thinking about his ACLs,
and I've got friends that have torn their ACLs and they work hard to fix that left one, and then the next year when they go hard at it, they pull the right one, and it is just a vicious circle with these ACLs. But I know you brought up Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, getting married. That was the shock to me. Wasn't the fact that he got married. The shock to me is that it's all over the internet and it's literally all everybody can talk about.
So is you think that was what he was talking about when he said he had personal stuff going on? That's why he wasn't there.
I'm starting to believe that. Yeah. But I'm also, like I told you before the show started, if you took a honeymoon as personal reasons, oh God, the media's going to eat you alive, because you could still sign your contract and then tell the team, hey, I'm getting married, so I'm going on my honeymoon. I know this is weird, but I'm going to have to take a sabbatical until after that.
Well, I'm just glad the wait is over. He had said that, Pittsburgh and the Giants were teams that he had talked to. Of course, he said the Vikings were in the mix, but obviously we all knew that they wanted nothing to do with that. No. But Rodgers finally hit the media yesterday, and this is what he had to say.
I think it starts with Mike Tomlin. I mean, I've been a fan of his for a long time. There's a few iconic franchises in the NFL. I played for one of them for 18 years. This is another one of those. There's something special about, obviously, this area. So many great quarterbacks are from Pittsburgh. I feel like Pittsburgh has been a part of my career from the beginning. Playing for Mike McCarthy for 13 years, having Tom Clements with Tommy Clements, depending on how old you are, as my quarterback coach forever. Don Capers, Kevin Green, Darren Perry, Ben McAdoo, Frank Signetti, Luke Getsy. I don't want to forget anybody, but
I mean, that's nice. But again, that's why I laugh about this whole the wait thing. It's like we knew where you were going. There was no wait. The only wait was, when are you going to sign the contract, which is what everybody in the media was mad about, because you're holding the team hostage. And it's just weird because the team could have made other moves too to potentially protect themselves from a bad move with you. So that's why I don't know about that.
I still have no faith in Rodgers, but I mean, hopefully I have a lot of Steelers fans and I hope the best for you guys. But one of the things that came up after that interview was good old Myles Garrett had this to say about knowing now that he gets to play Rodgers twice.
Think about Aaron Rodgers coming into the AFC North.
What do I think about it?
Facing twice a year.
I think it's a good opportunity to put him in the graveyard.
I love the graveyard. That's so great. For those of you who don't know what he's referring to, Myles Garrett every year for Halloween sets up a graveyard of every quarterback he's ever sacked in the NFL. And it's hilarious. Every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's outside of his house. I thought Rodgers was already on that list, though.
Maybe it's a different color format now.
Yeah, maybe he'll just set up a different tombstone for him or something. And that's exactly what he's in for. I mean, again, although you're going to Pittsburgh and they have a very long history of success, that's what I feel kind of positive about with this move is that at least you got Tomlin. Tomlin will figure out a way to make it a winning season no matter who is at quarterback. So hopefully if you're a Steeler fan, it turns out better than you think. But when you're going against guys like, well, Myles Garrett and that incredible Ravens defense twice a year and everything else in the way, Cincinnati Bengals, even though, as we just talked about, they have no defense at all and they're not going to pay the guy but made their defense what it was. I'd be worried if I'm Aaron Rodgers coming off of an injury year, because if you're going to have to deal with Myles Garrett 2 times a year, it's going to get long quick.
And I wouldn't expect, I mean, he's probably going to look good week 1. He's playing the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that. Last time we saw him play in that stadium was...
I would not doubt what Rodgers we see. I mean, he'll be, he's 41. He'll be 42 during the season. And he is not Tom Brady.
No. But, I mean, again, he never was. That's the thing.
Well, that is the list of 40-year-olds that have succeeded, and that's the only one.
No, I feel that, and that's why I'm saying I just feel like that's kind of
the kind of anything if he's a 4-time MVP.
Well, again, that I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like the media's entire idea of believing a 40-year-old can come out and be successful at all is what's unfair.
It's just the same crap. I mean, this always around Rodgers is always going to be a media circus. Whether it was, I mean, it kicked off with the crap he was talking about Aaron Glenn and the Jets. Well, I don't want the media around, but you came to the media and you go to media with almost every week with Pat McAfee. And I mean, you feed into it.
That he hasn't, though.
Yeah,
he hasn't been
because
on McAfee.
He's been married and he's been on his honeymoon.
I know, but I'm saying he hasn't been on McAfee in
But
months.
It's the same crap he came out yesterday after the interview is, I want to work out with my receivers, but they're going to have to come to Malibu before if they want to work with me.
No, I agree.
That's a leader right there.
No, I agree with you on that one. That's a bad look. I don't understand what that's about. But that's what I'm saying is that like you coming in as a 41, 42-year-old in any shape or form is not going to look pretty. It's just not. Like us expecting him to come out and look like the Aaron of old is kind of ridiculous. It's just for anybody to assume a 40-year-old can just walk out onto the football field, especially after an injury year, and succeed. I'm sorry, you're just that's a very, very tall order, and I don't know if that's an easy get for anybody. Tom Brady is an outlier. Tom Brady goes out of his way to pay millions of dollars to make sure his body's still in the shape that it is. So I don't think that that's a fair comparison, because that's like comparing. Honestly, it's like comparing any player that's not LeBron in the NBA to Michael.
Yeah, and they do every week.
I know. But again, that's just the media. That's what they have to do to make talking points.
But we brought it up yesterday, but James Cook returned to Bill's camp after listing his house. And I had to pull the clip because he actually came out and talked to the media about his contract situation.
Why did you decide to come?
I like my money, definitely do. But so that's why I'm here.
Why did you decide to fully participate?
I mean, why not? I'm here. I'm part of the team and just not practicing with my leader. So it just got to practice and get the job done.
Do you plan to fully participate in training camp as well?
Yeah. It's my team, and in order not to win a Super Bowl or compete for a Super Bowl and have a winning season, I have to be out there with my teammates.
Are you optimistic that something will get done?
At this moment, I'm gonna just keep working hard and let God take control and keep doing what I do.
I think his agent got to him.
No, I mean, again, I respect you for being honest. I like my money. That's the only thing you had to say.
Yep.
I like my money, so I'm here to play. Okay. Thanks, James. That's all we need to know. Like, are you optimistic about a new contract? No,
Probably
you're
not.
not, because arguably you're probably not going to get one unless you have a ridiculous year this year. So again, at least he's honest about it, and he came out and said, I'll be here to practice. I'll be here to be a leader, and I like my money. That's the long and short of it.
Well, we'll take our break. We'll talk a little Shador and some other NFL miscellaneous news right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. What? Oh. This is Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Berg. That's Sparky. This is the final segment of the day.
Tomorrow we'll recap whatever game we see tonight. Hopefully a good one, and then we'll have Danny Betts coming in to give us an update on the opening of the New Well Comedy Club.
Hey. I am praying for an Indiana win here. However, I'm gonna have to come out and say this. Pat McAfee's starting to make me hate him.
Why? Oh, because the Pacers?
No, just like his attitude lately on the show has been very like snobby, and that's starting to make me hate the Pacers.
Yep.
Because, and I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like he would like the one that really got me, and I was watching it. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and this is what bugged me. There was some dumb thing on Good Morning Football, I believe, where a chef comes on and talks about football or something that doesn't know football very well.
Yeah.
And they're talking about sandwich cities in the country, and they named LA the best sandwich city in the country. I disagree, if I'm being completely honest.
I would say Louisiana.
I would, yeah. Like, there's a lot of better places to get sandwiches than
Cajun.
LA. But he took that personally and got really upset that Pittsburgh wasn't on this list, and essentially just thrashed the guy. And pretty much said, you know what? All of you people that don't know ball, done with you. You're bums. You're all bums. And I was like,
Ouch.
Pat, I was like, dude, most of the reason why a lot of us like you is the happy-go-lucky nature that you have and the fact that you bring everybody in.
Yeah. Maybe that
Let's
beat down from
not start
Gunther.
being Stephen A. Smith, okay?
Right? We don't need that.
Like, that's not what the ESPN needs. Like, I don't know. And that's starting to make me feel like, you know what, maybe I should start cheering for the Thunder a little bit. I don't know. Maybe the Pacers aren't the team that I should be cheering for anymore. But
I just don't like, was it Miles Turner?
Yeah, Miles
That guy
Turner, the
just
center.
aggravates me.
I
I love Pascal. If I had to root for any Pacer, it's Pascal. But and that Halliburton, that little smirk, I just want to slap it right off his face.
You're a Bulls fan, so I understand we have to deal with the Pacers a lot during the season. I say we because I'm a Cavaliers fan at the same time. And I don't care for it either. But if I'm going to sit here and say anything, is like if my team lost to anybody, I'd rather it be the NBA Finals winner. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's usually what I would look at when I was but my team is always getting knocked out by the Heat. So
Yeah.
I can't do it. I just can't do it.
There's too much pressure.
But Shador is turning heads. He is looking good at camp, and he is embracing the backup position for now.
He's gonna be the starter.
I love the attitude that he's had.
It's the right attitude too, because going into this, everybody obviously was blaming the
visits.
Yeah, the visits as the reason he dropped. I think that his demeanor and the way he's been showing himself right now proves that that's not the truth. That you people are lying on this kid's name.
Well, maybe he did have an attitude and that's what he needed. He needed a wake up call and drop to the fifth or whatever it was.
It's entirely possible, but I don't know, dude. Like the humbling of being dropped to the fifth round would shock a lot of people. I just don't know if it would shock a Sanders. You know what I mean? Like
as we just talked about the attitude of the prime.
It just, I don't know.
But this is Shador at camp yesterday.
The mindset is just adjustment. You got to go and understand the situation that you're in and be able to approach that and get the best out of it. So life is just based on how you view different things. So you could view things as you're not getting reps in a negative way, or you could view it as, okay, when it's my time to get out there, let's be proactive and let's get warm, let's get going. So there's no excuses, because when you get out there, nobody cares how many reps you got. Whenever you get in the game, nobody cares if you took a snap before. Like everybody cares about production. So that's the main thing. When you get out there, you got to be able to produce.
And honestly, see that answer right there is exactly why I don't know if that's true. If these visit stories are true. Either that or these people just took it completely out of context. Like, granted, do I think that he showed up with his posse? Absolutely. I believe he showed up with his posse. But do I think that he went out there and was a smart mouth and told everybody that I'm not the quarterback for you? Maybe he did tell that to the Giants, but let's be honest, who here on the planet wouldn't? Come on, dude. Like, there's a lot of situations where I'm sitting there thinking, I really don't want to play for you. So maybe I'm not the right guy for you. There's a lot of players that have said that, but because it's Shedeur Sanders, we're taking it to a whole different level. The story that I keep seeing that's building out of this, and I have to bounce this off you because I saw it this morning. Obviously, we've been talking about which quarterbacks are going to be left in that room because it is a very crowded room right now. You got Joe Flacco, you got Kenny Pickett, and you got fellow rookie Dylan Gabriel as well from Oregon. I think now, and this is actually makes a lot of sense, what if they trade Dylan Gabriel to you guys in Miami? I've heard a couple instances that possibly would be on the table since you guys would be looking for a backup quarterback. Would you be open to that type of thing?
We drafted a backup.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm not remembering who you guys drafted.
We drafted the dude that was on the cover of the
Kellen Quinn. Oh, you did draft the Texas quarterback.
Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kellen Quinn
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers. Thank you. Kellen Quinn. That's a complete.
And then we got that the backup from the Jets that went to the Broncos. We've got several backups, but
I've just heard some rumblings that Miami might be interested. So I was like, oh, maybe Sparky has an opinion.
If he's good, then I would never say no to another quarterback, especially with Tua's history. But let's hope. Let's just hope that we don't have to play the backup this year, and I could be happy.
I'm just saying, like, you looked at me like a deer in the headlights, like I just hit you with my truck. I was like, what? Like, is this not something that you'd be interested in?
I know we drafted Quinn, but
I mean, again, that doesn't mean that.
Quinn. It doesn't. I still think they dropped Flacco, and
I think Kenny.
I think Flacco goes back to Indy, especially with all these Anthony Richardson injuries. So we'll see. We'll see.
Honestly, that's
go
the biggest
OKC.
Question. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. This is the Early Bird Special. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, before we get out of here, go follow us on all social media as well. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the place. We're even on Twitch. You can watch us on Twitch every morning. But until then, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Sparky, let's get out of here.